So, see, we have the model like this. You have an author table. So, author details. Again, I'm explaining you for those who did not understood yesterday. So, author details, right? Next is the book. Next is reviews. Reviews. Next is a reader. Right? So an author is associated with author details in a one-to-one. Right? An author is associated with author details one-to. And then a book is associated with author many books to one author. Many to one. Right? And this is many to one. And a book is associated with reviews. So which is one to many. And book is associated with reader. This is many to many. So just you can think like one author record or one author record is or one author is associated with one author details. Many books are associated with one author. That means one author can write many books, right? And one book is associated with the many reviews. And then many books are associated with many readers. This is how, if you see, many books can be written by many books will be read by many readers. Okay. Now, if you see here, All these are tables. Okay, these are your tables. Say, let us think like this. Say author is having let us draw the tables. Author ID, first name, last name. So I'll say here author ID or ID, we can say ID. Next is first name. First name, last name, next email. So this is your author table. Now let us study about what author details table contains. Author details table. Okay, this contains again ID, your author ID, qualification, author qualification, author address. So this contains your author details ID, qualification, and then your address. Okay. So now if you see here, the association between these two is 1-to-1. That means, suppose I have an author ID, say 100. First name is say some Pradeep, and last name is Kumar, and email is pradeep@gmail.com. Now for the same ID 100, you will have 100 qualification as PG qualification and address as Hyderabad. Now, if you see here, we have to determine which is primary key. In this is the primary key. ID is the primary key. Okay, that means there is only one row exactly with the ID value. Okay. So there will be only one row exactly with a given ID value. That means this 100 will not be repeated in any row. But the first name, last name, okay. Of course, email also can be considered as an ID. Okay, but I mean, this email also will not be repeated. But always better to use a separate column. Okay. Now for this ID, we'll map the same ID here also. So this value will be mapped here. And so the author's qualification is PG and the author's address is Hyderabad. Okay. So this is how this will so that is the reason there will be one record associated between these two. So this is exactly one record, which is 1 to 1. Right. Now, if you see your author and book, if you see, your author and book. So many books to one author. Now let me now write. Now let me create author table now. Sir, author is already there. Book table. Now we will have now book table. And here I'll have ID, title, and we'll have an author ID. So this will be your book ID. Okay. So this will be your title. And this will be your author ID. Now you see. Now in this will be your primary key. This is your primary key. That means there will be no two records with the same book ID value. Say here you have the ID value is B1, book ID. Title is Spring Book or Spring and Hibernate. Author ID is 100. So now when I say author ID 100, this will map. This will map. This will map. This will map to this ID column will map to this column maps to the ID column of book table, sorry, author table. Okay, any column that, so here what is ID column? This is a primary key, right? This is your primary key. So this is your primary key. Now any column, so now we call this as a foreign key. We call this as a foreign key. What is a foreign keys? The column that maps to primary key column of other table. The column that maps to the primary key column of the other table. So what is the primary key column of the other table? This one. Okay. So now, if you see here, this is mapping to the primary key column of this. So now I can say many books are written by one author. Now you see the same author can write another book also. The same author, but the another book will have different ID. Now this is your Java program. Java programming. And the author ID is 100. Now you see the same author is writing another book. So if you see here, see foreign key, this value is repeated. You see, this is repeated. Foreign key value can be repeated. Okay, remember, foreign key column value can be repeated across the rows. Value can be repeated across the rows in more than one record or in more than one row. But primary key column value should be unique. Okay, primary key value. So primary key value column value should not be repeated in more than one row. Should not be repeated in more than one row. Okay. Right. So everyone understood till one? Now if you see here, now many books, okay, this book and this book are mapped to one author, right? So this book, many means more than one. So that is mapped to this author, right? So that's why this is called many to one. That's why it's called many to one. So that's why we say many books are associated with one author. Everyone understood till this part? Any doubts, questions? Everyone understood till this part? Right. Okay. Now, everyone understood right till this part? We are not able to chart, right? Okay. I think there is some power issue at that server end. Okay. Now we'll see one more scenario. One book is associated with many reviews. Okay. Now this one book, let us take this book. Let us take this book. Now this book is having multiple reviews, like this book is actually good book or an average book. Okay. So this book is having multiple reviews. So what I'll do is, now let me take now this. So I'll have now review table. I'll have reviews table. So in this reviews table, say I'll have a review ID, next a comment, and a rater ID. Okay. Now I'll say reviewer ID, reviewer ID. Next, our review ID will say review ID. Next is comment, comments. Next, rater ID. Right. Okay. Now you see, one book can have multiple reviews, right? Now I'll say review ID R1. Comment is good book. And who has given that rater ID? A particular rater will give that, the rater of the book. His rater ID is say some 200. For which book actually he's giving? Is there any indication between these two? So for which book he's giving? Okay. So we have to give one more column here, which is book ID. Book ID. This is another column. This is another column. Now for this book ID, V1. Okay, the rater ID has given a comment, good book. Now for the same book ID, R2, another rater has given some average book. See, different raters will give different comments, right? And the rater ID is say 210. And for the same book ID, V1. Now there is another review ID R3. Just 1 minute. Yeah, sorry, I got one call. So R3. So I'll say excellent book. And This time the same reader ID 200 has given for second book B2. Right? Now, if you see here, now if you see for one book, there are multiple reviews, right? For one book, there are multiple reviews. So from here to here, this will be one too many. This will be one too many. Right? And if you see, which is primary key here? So this is your primary key. And which is your foreign key here? So this is your foreign key. So this is your foreign key. Now, so this is your primary key, this is your foreign key. And for the same book, you are having multiple. So that's why foreign key, you see, that is repeated, but primary key will be same, unique across all the records. Okay. Now, what is the next one? Now we'll have one more column called readers, one more table called readers. Readers table. And here you have reader ID. Here your reader ID. First name, last name, email. So here you have reader ID, first name, next last name, and email. And email. Right? Now what we'll do, you see here. Reader ID R1. Okay. Now reader ID, reader ID, if you have to match here. We have reader ID is 200, 210. These are the reader IDs. So we'll match here. So reader ID 200. So first name is say some Gopal, or we can say something Rakesh Kumar. And email is rakesh.@gmail.com. Next is we'll give one more ID 201. So here I'll give Sekhar, not 201, right? It is sorry. It is 210. Sorry, it is 210. 210. So Sekhar Babu. And here I'll say Sekhar@gmail.com. Right? Now, this is your readers table. These are the users or readers of the books. Now, many readers will read many books, right? So here I'll have one more table here. You see here. I'll just tell you. This we call it as a join table. What we say is readers_books. In this, what we'll do, we'll have two columns now. One is raider ID. Raider ID. And another one is book ID. See here, why we are having this separate table is, I'll tell you. In this raiders table, which is your primary key? This is your primary key. Right? So this is your primary key. Now, many raiders are reading many books. That means this raider 200, Rakesh, he is reading this book, this book. Okay. Suppose if I add book ID column here, okay, how we can map this 200 reading two books? Suppose let us think I'll add one book ID column here. Okay. Something like this, book ID. Now 200 should read B1 and B2. But 200 is a primary key, right? I mean, this is a primary key, right? ID is a primary key, right? So suppose if I add, if I add like this, okay, let us take. Suppose if I take like this. Okay, let us think like this. So I have a raiders table. So I have ID, first name, last name, email, okay? And then I'll also have so ID, next first name, okay, first name, next last name, email, and then here I'll have here I'll have a column called book ID, for example. Now, what will happen now? You see here. Suppose I say raider table 200. He's reading, okay, first name Rakesh, okay, Kumar, and he's reading the book ID B1. Okay, book ID B1. Now, the same reader can read another book also, right? There is a possibility. So that means I'll put now 200 B2. But you cannot put like this because you declared this as a primary key. You declared this as a primary key. And in a primary key, this value cannot repeat. See, 200 is repeating. The foreign key value can repeat, but this should not repeat. So you cannot put like this. Suppose if I add in my books table, separate column for reader, you cannot do here also. So that is why you have to have separate table reader books. And here you can declare like this. Reader ID 200 is reading book ID B1. Okay. Next, reader ID 200 is reading book ID B2 also. Right. And then okay, and raider ID 210. Raider ID 210 is reading book ID B1. Raider ID 210 is reading book ID B1. Now, if I put like this, what I'll do, this is a separate table. This is a separate table. And I'll make these two columns as a composite primary key. What is composite primary keys? It is a primary, this key will be on combination of, this key is combination of more than one column. And if we see here, now the combination should be unique. The combination. That means if 200B1 is present here, there should not be any record with 200B1. Okay, the combination should be unique. The combination. Should be unique. So that means if 200B1 is present in one row, this should not be repeated in other rows. Okay. Similarly, if 200B2 is present in one row, 200B2 is present in one row, then this combination should not be repeated in other records. So this is how this will. So for many to many, now what will happen, for a composite primary key, now again this column separately is a foreign key to this table, and this column separately is a foreign key to this table. So this, we can say this is foreign key. It's only separate column. As a combination, it is a primary key, but separate individually if you take. So this column separately, this raider ID column separately, this raider ID maps to the, or we can say is a foreign key, maps to primary key of raider table, right? And this column. So this book ID is foreign key, maps to primary key of books table. Now you see, combination is a primary key. These two columns is combination is a primary key, but individually if you take, that is a foreign key. That's why foreign key values can be repeated. But the combination should not be repeated. That is what we call composite primary key. Everyone understood this? Whatever I told you? Everyone understood? Questions? Clear, everyone? Everyone clear? I think you're not able to chart, right? Okay, all right then. I think there is a power issue, I think, at the server end. We'll connect tomorrow then. I think you are not able to chart. So we'll connect tomorrow. If you are able to chart, we can have a clear response. So tomorrow we'll see then. Okay. Tomorrow we'll connect then. Okay. Thank you all. See you tomorrow.